Thank everyone for coming. I apologize my German is not up to this, but it's nice to be speaking to you. I was a bit surprised when we had the game at the start, how few of you believe in the future. Like you, I'm scared for the future. I'm often terrified for the future. But I work mainly in the 17th century, and that allows me to see the cycles of time, and that we have periods of war and disaster, and we come through and we grow. And if there's anything that holds us together, it's culture. And I would like to think that this project is about culture. So I just wanted to add that before I even started talking. Clemens and Nick, thank you for this lovely invitation. Can we have the slides, please, perhaps? Just start up. Thank you. They asked me, we were talking about Anti-Gravity Day. And so I wanted to present this project that has driven my life for the last 11 years, in fact, 20-odd years now, by the fact that much of it is anti-gravity. The thing I want to focus on today is this contradiction of time, if you like. We all know that time is a continuum. There's only ever now in that respect. But what fascinates me and what gets me going on this project is this idea of time and place. I get very excited when I'm in Venice, when I know that I'm standing where Monteverdi was standing once upon a time. And yet the only thing that separates us is that we're in a different time zone. And the project was born from that experience of walking in. I studied in Cremona, where Monteverdi was born, and you have a great big fog in Cremona, and you could walk in the evenings and you could see nothing to tell you that you were in today, in this part of now. And it amused me to be in the same place as Monteverdi, just in a different time zone. And that's really where the project started growing. The other contradiction is that those of you who know opera know it's a contemporary art form. It's a performance art always performed now, always in a contemporary style. And that's wonderful, and those of you who support that, fantastic. I love it myself. What we wanted was one theatre that went back in time to understand how they did it then, and I'll explain why that is. So they're the two things of contradiction in time, the time and place, and why going back in time to do something that is, we call it historically informed performance, is of itself completely wrong. Performance in opera is never historically informed. It's about now. So by being historically informed, we're actually not being historically informed. So it's the fun of the project. However, to explain the enormity of this project, I have here my passport, even if I can find the right page. You can see the passport there. This is my British passport. You can see in the passport, in these pages, is the Shakespeare's Globe in London. It's so intrinsic to being English in our blood that, having reconstructed this theatre in 1997, it's now in our passport. The Teatro San Cassiano, the theatre that we're rebuilding in Venice, is the birthplace of public opera. It is the world's first opera house. It was the first theatre in Venice in 1581, but then in 1637 it was the first opera house. And we don't have that theatre anywhere in Italy. Bitter. So it's so vital to the project. And I should just say that this idea germinated in Cremona, but it was actually at the Shakespeare's Globe in 1999, 400 years to the day since the building of the Globe Theatre, that I saw an historically informed production of Julius Caesar with Mark Rylance playing the role. And I realized at that point that I had to go and build a theatre because we don't have anything like that in Italy. I realized at that time I was missing two key factors. One, I hadn't finished my doctorate on opera production in the 17th century. I wasn't an expert on theatres, and I'm still not, but I'm closer. And I also realized, having been in business since I was 23, that there are projects that you can go to a bank and get funding immediately, and you can go to investment and get funding immediately. But there are other projects that don't have a hope. And this was one such project. I knew I had to go away and self-fund. And so in 2010, I finished my doctorate. In 2014, I sold my business, which I'd built up to fund this project. And thus, in only 2015, were we able to start the project to rebuild the Teatro San Cassiano, in practical terms. So let's go back to the beginning. We know 1637, just 6 years after the plague in Venice, in which, we're talking about perspectives of future. What was their view when to a third to a half of the population died in Venice, when public music was banned? Suddenly, after that silence, almost like after the war, in 1637, the Teatro San Cassiano staged the world's first public opera, in which you have this magical scenery and this Deus Ex Machina. You have an orchestra for the first time. It's no wonder that that was the spark that created the opera boom that has led to all the wonderful theatres we all enjoy today. And so this is where the journey begins. I didn't say bitter, but we're here now on the project. The tragedy is that some 389 years later, we have no single theatre in Italy from the 17th century that's active. We have 3,000 theatres in Italy, but we don't have a single active theatre with the machinery and everything like that. Bitte. So, the aim is very simple. We are trying to reconstruct the Teatro San Cassiano, like the Shakespeare's Globe, as far as academic research and historical build knowledge will allow. That means the Deus Ex Machina, it means the special effects, fire-breathing dragons, water-flowing fountains, costumes, gestures, scenery sets that change in the blink of an eye, candlelight, and a public that is close and sharing the same light. Within that, we come to the point of historically informed performance. Going back in time, we have some 100 composers that have been lost in time. All of them, every single one of them, the best of the day, the best poets of the day, the best composers of the day. And yet, because opera is this contemporary performance art, as you perform each opera, it goes on to the next piece. The opera is left behind, you do the next performance. And slowly, slowly, each composer gets outdated and is forgotten, and we move on. The great composers are so easily lost. Antonio Vivaldi, we all know Vivaldi now, right? It wasn't until 1947 that we started the Italian Institute for Antonio Vivaldi. And we have 100 of such composers that we can bring back. And so the San Cassiano will become a venue where we can go back into time and where we can explore this historically informed performance to bring these works to pieces. 3, in doing this, we create what we hope is a world-leading center for Baroque opera, for the study, the exploration, the experimentation, this pure spectacle of seeing these operas as we should have seen them in the original way. Bitte. So, I mentioned contemporary performance, and I mentioned that we're going historically informed performance. What does that really mean? Bitte. You'll see a set here from our dear friends in the Czech Republic. This is a theatre that is as close as I can get to ours in the moment. It's actually 1766. It's a court theatre, which is an entirely different beast to us. But you can at least see the cloud here, which is something we had in the San Cassiano. Those clouds, they slowly move. It's the latest technology of the day. And it gives you a setting for the opera, a bitte. But when I say historically informed performance, this is a scene from an opera I restaged with our friends in the Czech Republic. It's the entrance of the Emperor Nero into manhood. The character with the red plumes is the Emperor Nero. And you'll note, he's not dressed in a white Roman toga. He's dressed as a duke in the Baroque era in Modena, which is the city of that time. I know this because I recovered the wardrobe as part of my research. So why are we doing this? It's, as a musicologist, my job is always to try and get as close as I possibly can to understanding the composer and his work, or her work. With such performances in such theatres, we have this problem. We have the libretto, we have the manuscript, but we don't have the theatre. We don't have an historically informed place, which means my research is always incomplete. It means that I don't get to test the third element because every composer is writing for the singers who are going to perform the work and the theatre in which they're going to be performed. So if I'm on the stage now at San Cassiano, and by the way, this room is not far away from it in terms of width, it's slightly longer. We only have 6 rows in the stalls, the parquet. But if I'm in San Cassiano and I'm singing an aria, and don't worry guys, I won't sing, I promise, you don't want that. But if I sing my aria, I'm in a whispering point here, I'm in the perfect point to speak. The theatre has been built for that purpose. I'm in a proscenium, which is ahead of the proscenium arch, so we're in the same space. As I finish my aria, I have to move away because I have to let someone come in and sing. Or, if I want to create a feeling of weakness or of sinister feeling, as the libretto says, a parte, we push them to the sides, where the vocal changes, the acoustic changes. These elements direct the drama. The theatre directs the drama. And that's the value of why we are going back to historically informed performance to get closer to understanding the intent of the performer. Now, that's the philosophy of the project. Bitte. So in building the theatre, bitte, we called it the Impossible Project. And I mentioned about funding it myself because I knew that it wouldn't be feasible at the beginning. We started the project with no description of the theatre, no plans, no measurements, no images. Because opera comes from a very, I would say, richer side of society where it wasn't part of the state at that time. It's a place where you wore a mask for a reason because you wanted it was all hidden. We now have the measurements. We've now uncovered research that we didn't know existed beforehand. We can now rebuild the theatre to the point that we can say this is the Teatro San Cassiano. You'll see just how intimate it is there. We're talking of 5 tiers, 153 boxes, each 1 meter wide, 2 people crammed in. And you're talking about such intensity that I can see into your eyes, you can see into my eyes. It's very intimate in performance. You're talking about a stage depth of just 5 meters, but you're talking about this proscenium stage. So it enables us to create this place I mentioned at the beginning and this contradiction of time and place. I want you, when you're in that theatre, to feel that you could be sitting next to Monteverdi or Vivaldi. I want you to feel how they might have felt. And here's the rub, here's the big thing. No one living today, none of you in this room, me neither, has ever seen or heard an opera by Monteverdi or Vivaldi as they themselves would recognize it. There are many wonderful performances. I'm not saying that we can't perform Vivaldi. I'm just saying we haven't experienced it. And if this is about anti-gravity, I want to go back and feel it. I want to feel how that was. And so when you come to our theatre, I hope you'll get that sense of of time, and perhaps feel that someone's with you there. Bitte. You'll see, when you look at this, I said about the size of the room being similar, you'll see how tall the theatre is. It's 10 meters high, so it's a tall tower of intimacy. Bitte. And then this is the latest sketch we have, and I think then you perhaps get the idea of what I'm trying to say about how personal early opera was. And opera evolved as it did because the theatres were so tiny and so small. Counterpoint, Baroque opera, some of you may not even like Baroque opera because you think, oh, it's boring. It's because you've heard it only in large venues. And with large venues, you blend the counterpoints so you don't hear the two voices singing. When you're in a small room, a small theatre, it becomes opera da camera. It's intimate. You hear the voices of the orchestra against the voices of the singer. I think that's the sort of space we're trying to create. Bitte. So, where are we today? To finish this off, to save you from my tedious English. 11 years later, after some 7 million euros into this project, we have finally convinced the Venetians to allow us to build the theatre. We have finally found the space where we can build it. The Palazzo Donna Balbi is 500 yards from the original site on the Canal Grande. Bitte. The Palazzo is both that and the smaller building to the right. It will be a 10 million restoration project to restore the Palazzo. And therein, we want, when you walk into the Palazzo, to think, wow, this is Venice today. Again, think of that. This is Venice in a contemporary fashion restored. Bitte. And then in the garden where you see the extended line, Bitte, we will insert the theatre at the back. Bitte. So that we will unify the two buildings. And here's the exciting thing. It's not just about historically informed performance. It's about historically informed entertainment. Your evening. I want, when you come to our theatre, and we can do this by the end of 2029, I want you to have the best night of your year. So when you walk into the theatre, you're going to have wow factors 3 times over. You're going to, as I just said, walk into the Palazzo and think, wow, this is Venice today. We'll walk through to our theatre, which you've just seen, in a historical format. You'll go back in time to 1637, and I hope you'll say, wow. And then with the musicians, the best in the world, coming to play in our theatre, I hope the music is going to make you feel wow too. But that's not all. You arrive, you go to Act 1, and because it's historically informed, you will then retire to the Palazzo for your dinner. You'll come back for Act 2, retire again for dessert, and again, I insist you have dessert, because if you don't, I can't, so we have to enjoy ourselves, right? And then you return for the 3rd act. So it's not 3 hours of sitting there uncomfortably. It's in bite-sized chunks where we can really engage, keep our concentration, enjoy the most beautiful music I feel there is. And it creates for us this world-leading center for the study and exploration of Baroque opera. And I hope within that it makes sense what I'm saying about these contradictions of time and now. You mentioned, Clemens, about the model, financial model. Opera was always a privately run commercial venture. It had successes, it had failures, but the fact that we had an opera boom, the fact that the Teatro San Cassiano lasted all the way through until, in our case, we were demolished by Napoleon, but opera continued well until the invention of cinema, shows that it was a viable commercial entity. Our problem came as technology evolved. Cinema became the latest technology, opera started to die, and so the governments had to stand in. Since that time, and that was right, by the way, and in Italy it was 1936 when Mussolini changed the law to make every theatre state-sponsored. But since then, that's meant that opera continues to decline, because we go to it, we approach it as a charity. We've got out of touch with the realities. Our project, in terms of anti-gravity, believes in the commercial viability of opera, and having a structure like this, where you have hospitality at its core, returns us to the original model, and thus the past of opera was hospitality, the future of opera is hospitality, and it has a viable future. And going back to the point we're saying about our hopes for the future, well, I think if we believe and enjoy opera and culture, we have a chance. Bitte. I'll just close now, and thank you for your kind attention. We live in Venice. Everyone knows the peril that Venice has faced, the dangers that it faces. Everyone knows that Venice has this ability to always resurge and always come forward. Our project offers a small contribution to a sustainable future for Venice, in that it puts cultural patrimony, cultural heritage at the center of its future, where we can bring in 300 new jobs, a 70 million euro investment to the city, where we're working with the artisan skills that we desperately need for our theatre to function, and we preserve them in the course. And thus, I think it's a positive way of looking forward, and thank you again for your attention. Bitte, grazie.